This is Think Tech Hawaii. Community matters here.
Aloha and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Pauline Shakmakjian, your host for We Like the 1%. We Like the 1% is a show that focuses on individuals and entrepreneurs. And what better example of an individual than a truly talented artist? My guest today is one such artist. He is Marques Hanalei Marzan. And Marques is a fiber artist and a cultural advisor at the Bishop Museum. Not the British Museum, the Bishop Museum here in Honolulu. Good morning, Marques.
Good morning. Aloha.
Aloha. Thank you for being here this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes. And now, a fiber artist is quite specialized, isn't it?
It can be, definitely.
And it's quite a unique specialism in the world of fine and decorative arts. And what we mean by a fiber artist isn't like Chris O'Feely, who is an artist known for putting glitter and elephant dung and splattering it all over canvas, isn't it?
No.
Something totally different.
Completely different.
So what do we mean by fiber artists and fiber arts, Marques?
So the fiber arts are all of the art forms that incorporate natural materials as the base material, and then through different processes. So basket making, plating, loom weaving, knotwork are all considered fiber arts because of the material that they're all made from.
Brilliant. And have you always engaged with fiber arts and fiber artwork, or did you start off more traditionally? For example, I'm not a professional artist like you, but I had a painting scholarship in fine art when I was at university. So we would do watercolor, oil, things like that that were traditional, that formed the fundamental basis for your practice later on.
Yes.
So did you start off in that traditional education, or did you always just go straight to fiber art?
I think in my formal education, I was pretty much committed to the fiber arts from the beginning. But in the beginning, when I was a young boy, I loved to draw. I loved to make things out of mud and clay and different kinds of things like that. And then I got more specialized classes and experience as I grew up and became a teenager and went to college. And that's where I actually committed to the fiber arts.
And all of your training is Hawaiian based?
So when I first started taking classes when I was a teenager, it was Hawaiian material based. So the lauhala weaving and some different basketry and net making and different things like that. And when I went to university and started taking the courses there, I was introduced to the world fiber arts, loom weaving and all the other textile arts as well. So I think all of those, plus the background that I gained through my formative years as a teenager, I think I really was drawn to the Pacific arts.
Yes. And I first learned about you at the first ever Honolulu Biennial last year.
Yes. And
it was a pleasure to meet you. And what happened was, there were artworks scattered about everywhere in that general hub area. And I went through the main gallery, and there were some very clever things on display. All the artists had talent, obviously. And we started with the boats that had all the different elements. Every boat was different. Everybody was on a different voyage. And when I came upon your section in the gallery, I noticed there was a very peaceful and tranquil atmosphere around your work. And I really liked the ambience that you had created with your work. And I think the studio is going to show some of the work from the Honolulu Biennial that I'm referring to as we discuss these kind of kimono-like pieces that you had on display. So what was your influence to create these kimono-like pieces, these exhibits?
Yeah, so when I was first invited to participate in the Biennial, I was asked what kind of thing I would create what kind of installation piece I would create for the space. And I really wanted to make something Hawaii-based. So with all of my experience and background in Hawaiian culture and the material culture of Hawaii, I really wanted to focus in on the traditional deities of Hawaii. And so in Hawaiian culture and history, the deities lived in all aspects of life. In the land, in the sea, in the sky, within people, within everything. So to really manifest them in the four pieces that I presented in the biennial was my way to really connect to the place and showcase Hawaii in a very abstract, contextual way, incorporating the colors and the plant materials and the different techniques associated with the different God forms of Hawaii.
And the number 4 is significant. You didn't just pick that randomly,
Four
because I've been to the Bishop Museum.
Yeah, that is correct.
And there is a section on the Hawaiian cosmology, which
Yes.
states that the four original gods
Yes.
are very important to the Hawaiians.
Yes.
And it's interesting here in Hawaii because I do a lot with Japan.
Yes.
And in Japan and China, 4 is the unluckiest number because
Yes.
it's associated with the same sound as death.
Yes.
But in Hawaii, it's the luckiest number, and 4 times 4 is the luckiest because it's 4 times 4 gods.
Correct.
Yes?
Yes. So in the famous creation chant, the Kumulipo, there's 16 wa, or 16 time periods where all of life is created throughout these 16 phases of creation, and the gods, of course, are enumerated in multiples of 4. So 440, 440, 4,000, 400,000 gods. And so there's the varying degrees in which the gods appear and manifest in our world.
And the one that caught my eye was the blue, the very blue indigo-like
Yes.
kimono. And I'm referring to them as kimono, maybe you have a different word for them, but it struck me as very Japanese.
Yes. For that particular one, I would say it did have a very Japanese feel to it, because I'm also part Japanese in ancestry. I really wanted to incorporate my own personal aesthetic into these pieces, not just focusing in on Hawaiian materials per se and how they're presented, but really incorporating myself into it and my understanding of the world that of Hawaii and the people and the culture. So that particular akua, or the akua, the god, represented there was of Kanaloa. Kanaloa is the god of the sea, the god of the sea, the god of purification, and blue is, of course, being one of his primary colors associated with him. And I think because of my training from the university and all of the other experiences that I've had in my travels around and experiencing different cultural practices and traditional techniques, indigo was something that I really gravitated to, and I really wanted to incorporate that into that particular
It must be the Japanese in you, because that is a very popular color in Japan to use for textiles.
Aizome, yes.
It's a specific training they have to go through for the indigo dyeing.
Yes.
And so the blue one is Kanaloa.
Kanaloa.
And how about the other ones? Can you identify them by color?
Yes.
So there's a signal.
So in the installation, I had banners that also corresponded to the 4 a'ahu, or the garment pedestal pieces. So there was red banners corresponding to the red piece, yellow, white, and black, and then the blue. So white and black are actually the colors most associated with the god Lono. The god Lono is the god of the harvest, the god of peace and prosperity. And Captain
Cook. They thought he was Captain Cook.
Yes, of course. Well, I think because he came during the time of Lono, they had those associations already on their mind, and they saw his white sails, the big white billowing banners on his ship, and they made those connections. The floating island, of course, yes. And the other two, the red piece associated with the god Ku, the god of masculinity, warfare, governance. And then the yellow is the god of Kane, the god of life and creation. So all together, they create the whole world and all the manifestations in between.
Lovely. And I just wanted, you're one of the few artists I've actually spoken to who participated in the Honolulu Biennial last year. So are you going to participate in the next one next year?
I haven't been formally asked, but I have been asked to be a part of their advisory council to assist them in trying to find different approaches in melding together the contemporary artists of Hawaii with the international artists.
And what were your impressions of the biennial? It's interesting to see an artist's perspective of the works of the other artists there.
Yeah,
Did you have a favorite artist? You wouldn't say yourself.
No, I think, because the installation process at the hub really opened my eyes to seeing how different pieces were installed, how different people worked on creating their pieces. I saw some people work up to the last minute creating certain aspects of their piece. Some people built their installations very quickly and got them finished very on time. So I think with all of the artists present, I think it really created a nice community of conversation, and I think that's what I really took out of this. The greatest enjoyment that I had was that interaction with all the artists and really enjoying.
Artists are wonderful fun, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They're a lot of fun. I think people don't realize the interactions that happen behind the scenes and all of those things. Yeah, it was really enjoyable to spend time with them.
If my recollection is correct, you were the only fiber artist there, weren't you? There was nobody else making these kind of displays that were related to fashion in some way.
Yes, I was. Yes. I would say, in that regard, I was the only one.
Yes, that's brilliant. So you are unique in that respect. So the dates for the next biennial have been selected, as well as the title. So it's called An Open Boat.
Yes.
And it will take place next year, because it is a biennial, and it's going to be the 8th of March to the 5th of May, 2019. So you're going to be on the advisory board, which is very exciting. And do you have any other plans between now and then, or perhaps in future, for any other exhibitions of your own work here in Hawaii or elsewhere?
Well, I have been asked, because of my exposure from the biennial and other exhibitions that I've had since, to do a couple of commissions here and there throughout Hawaii. So I'm working on a couple of small commissions here locally for a hotel, St. Andrew's Cathedral. So a couple of really exciting projects for me. I'm interested in doing.
Is most of your artwork related to Hawaiian cosmology, or do you touch upon other subjects in your fiber artwork?
I think because of the material and the techniques, the materials and the techniques that I use are primarily Hawaii based. They already have that inherent connection to Hawaii. But I really do think that my works actually talk more broad concepts of connections, relationships with nature and the world. So it's not necessarily just of Hawaii.
And you have quite an extensive experience with other areas in the Asia-Pacific region. You've done collaboration with other artists in other locations.
Yes.
Can you list some of those?
So I have traveled extensively across the Pacific to Aotearoa, New Zealand, to Fiji, Tahiti, Samoa, Solomon Islands, Palau. So, and interacted with a lot of the cultural groups and communities there. So. It's always an amazing opportunity to connect with the indigenous peoples of different places and really understand, have a conversation with them, because I think when I first started to travel around the Pacific, I realized that the stories and the issues that they were dealing with in those different places were the same issues that were being dealt with here in Hawaii, and it really focused it back on me as like, wow, these people are facing the exact same issues as I am back home, and it really made me think, wow, they're teaching me how to really connect to Hawaii. Even though I'm not actually part of them in Hawaii at the time when that inspiration came.
And in terms of your own inspirations, do you have favorite artists, either dead or alive, that you can mention? Do you have influences?
Actually, the most inspiring artists are the ancestral pieces that exist in museums and family collections. They, to me, are those ancestral kupuna, or the elders that don't physically have a voice to teach and pass that knowledge on. But if you're able to observe them in a very conscious way, they will speak to you, and they do speak to me quite often. So I think those are the most inspiring teachers, those pieces that exist that have such a rich story that don't get expressed just from the visual presentation, but they have so many things if you actually are aware of how they really can teach.
Okay, brilliant, Marques.
Yeah.
Well, we're just going to take a very quick break, and we'll be right back after this quick break.
All right.
Thank you.
Living in this crazy world, so caught up in the confusion, nothing is making sense for me and you. We're going to give a little love, have a little hope, make this world a little better. Try a little more than every more. Let's do what we can.
They said I could play, so any chance to play at all. You know, that's my life. I love music.
Yeah, that's how we do it.
Aloha, my name is Mark Shklav. I am the host of Think Tech Hawaii's Law Across the Sea. Law Across the Sea comes on every other Monday at 11 a.m. Please join us. I like to bring in guests that talk about all types of things that come across the sea to Hawaii. Not just law, love, people, ideas, history. Please join us for Law Across the Sea. Aloha.
Aloha, I'm Winston Welch, and every other Monday at 3 p.m., you can join me at Out and About, a show where we explore a variety of topics, organizations, events, and the people who fuel them in our city, state, country, and world. So please join us every other Monday at 3, and we'll see you then. Aloha.
Aloha, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to We Like the 1%. We're speaking with Marques Hanalei Marzan. And Marques, what about your role at the Bishop Museum? You're as cultural advisor there. Explain what that means.
And so, well, I've been at the Bishop Museum for 15 years now, and I've served in different capacities, currently as cultural advisor. But I actually provide cultural advice and guidance to all levels of management and the organization itself, and assist in cultural protocols and any kind of community engagement issues that require that cultural lens to be.
So if people need advice, if they're anthropological research
regarding cultural matters, actual ceremonial protocols that occur in communities. Like for instance, the honoring of Princess Pauahi on her birthday, or Charles Reed Bishop on his birthday, different kinds of things like that, where we want to honor different things and commemorate different events. I'm asked to assist in providing my expertise in those areas, as well as in cultural content, in building of exhibitions and cultural programming.
And you must be quite busy this year because there are a lot of things related to various anniversaries related to the overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom, things like Sea of this nature.
Yes.
Opening day is going to be very interesting in the legislature next week, probably. So we're just showing the viewers who can see your beautiful artwork at the Honolulu Biennial, the examples of what you were talking about in reference to the color and the Hawaiian gods. Yeah. So everybody can identify which god with which kimono or fiber art piece that you can see there. Yeah. And while these are being shown, let's talk about what's happening at the Bishop Museum at the moment.
So currently we have on exhibition an exhibit on navigation. Holomoana is the title, and it does have a strong focus on the Hokule'a's journey around the world, the Malama Honua voyage.
Because Hokulea is back now.
Hokulea is back in Hawaii and traveling around the islands and connecting with the community again. But yeah, I think that's our current exhibition at the moment. Of course, alongside our permanent galleries of Hawaiian and Pacific halls.
And we do encourage, even though you're a local and you've been to the Bishop Museum before, maybe as a child on a school visit, I'm only here 2 or 3 months every year, and I go to the Bishop Museum every year. And we were talking about this earlier, where you did recently have, in the past couple of years or so, an exhibition on wearable arts. So
Yes.
this is a New Zealand concept. It's a Kiwi invention, originally from Nelson in the South Island,
Correct.
which the Wellingtonians took and brought it to the capital. And the Nelsonians weren't too happy about that, but it's called WOW, the World of Wearable Art. And that was on display in the Bishop Museum, I believe, a couple of years ago.
Yes, it was.
So, but there were quite distinctive Hawaiian-inspired pieces that I didn't see in New Zealand when I first saw the show there. I was on a lecture tour in 2014. That was the first time I encountered WOW. And you had this magnificent piece in the Bishop Museum exhibition that was made entirely out of koa wood.
Wood, yes.
So,
Veneer
were
piece.
you involved in that exhibition? to an
No,
extent?
so WOW actually had a traveling exhibition and offered it to the Bishop Museum, and we jumped on it, and we felt that it would make a beautiful complement to our permanent galleries, and it really did do a successful run during its time in Hawaii.
Yeah, and you mentioned the exhibition on the Hokulea. What other things are going on? Because there's one on animation at the moment,
One on
and one on
animation,
dinosaurs that are coming up.
One on dinosaurs coming up later on this year. We also have in the works an exhibition focusing on Rapa Nui. So we're going to be presenting the majority of our collections connected to Rapa Nui in this particular exhibition.
Have you been to Easter Island?
I have not.
Oh,
That's
I
where
have.
that's
It's
where I'd like to
maximum
go.
2 days on
Yeah.
the island. It's a funny place, but it's worth it to see the moai there.
Yes.
And I just wanted to ask you, in the moments that we have left in the show, it's an interesting subject because I'm interested in futurism. And I went to a presentation that was technologically inclined. They were talking about all sorts of futuristic technology. This is the concepts like universal basic income. What are we going to do when automation, AI, machine learning, and robotics take over most jobs? Some people don't believe robots are going to take over all jobs. I think certain professions are quite safe, such as health-related medical professions, and probably also the creative industries, artists, things that, because a robot can't be creative.
Yeah.
Not yet, unless you believe in that idea that they might attain consciousness and all this sort of thing and replicate human thought. But still, there's this creative spark that I think is unique to the humans. So one of the presentations I attended, the gentleman said, we're going to have all this free time. Everybody's going to have free time to do arts. And I listen to people who are up-and-coming fashion designers, sometimes because they're in their 20s, they're still making a name for themselves. They supplement their income by teaching at fashion colleges or universities with fine arts, decorative arts programs. And they tell me in private dinner parties that it's amazing to them how untalented people really are. And you have to be realistic and assume that these universities or colleges, a lot of them, they're businesses. So they have to have an intake of students to keep going. And whether the person has talent or not, it doesn't really matter, because they need the students to survive. So in your opinion, in the future, maybe in 10 years' time, when all these advances come to fruition, will people be doing more arts? And if so, are they going to be bad art? Is there going to be bad art in production?
Well, I would hope people would take up being creative with their free time. With my experience anyway, I'm working with school-age children, even college and adult students. A lot of them that do not have any kind of connection to the outdoors really have a hard time making things. So I've noticed a lot of people that go fishing or farm or garden or things like that, that actually use their hands and do something with their hands, actually have a lot easier time coming up and being more creative with the different pieces that I was able to demonstrate and teach them, versus the people that were divorced from the land, very urban living, very few connections to the natural environment. Really had a hard time. Really connecting.
It's interesting you mentioned that, Marcus, because one of my neighbors mentioned that, I don't know how accurate this is, but apparently because a lot of children are on the screen all the time, when they go outdoors, because they're spending more time indoors and having things like screen sickness, they're on the computer constantly or on the smartphone, that their eyes actually don't focus properly.
That's what I've heard as well.
So it's not necessarily a lack of creativity, it's that they're being harmed by this screen usage. So is it better that the parents try to put them outside more?
I think so,
Yes.
because I've worked with a lot of Hawaiian charter schools, which have a very different way of approaching their teaching of their students and really engaging them into land-based and community-based projects. So the students that have actually gone and weeded a taro patch or cleaned a fish pond and things really have the dexterity. Their fingers are actually more nimble to do some of those really intricate fine techniques like weaving and making of nets and things like that. So
because when a master artist such as yourself, you create something, it looks very simple to do, but it isn't. You have to have a lot of manual coordination and dexterity.
And that's what a lot of people don't realize, that it looks very easy to create because it doesn't have a lot of complicated parts to it or something. But once people start trying the technique and putting the materials together,
very difficult.
They really realize that it's a lot more work than they thought it was.
Yeah. And what is your opinion of the level or quality of art education in Hawaii? Is it something that kind of gets left behind like in other jurisdictions?
I think at the moment, yes. I think it's
kind of put on the bottom of the list of everything. And I always keep telling people arts and culture is what makes us human.
It's the core of
and
humanity.
It's kind of the least important thing, and everybody focuses on STEM, which is equally important.
It is important, but like you said, the humanity is based in cultural practices, beliefs, and family, and the connections like that. So to have that, pushed off the plate of the education program teaching is, I think, a detriment to the children.
And how do you think that can be improved upon here in Hawaii? Because you do, on occasion, there are competitions such as the Hawaii State Art Museum. They do things that are open to the public to participate in. But do you think we could do more besides the Honolulu Biennial, which I think is a fantastic idea, and congratulations to the co-founders for doing that, because it is a lot of work to put on an event like that.
It is, definitely. I think for me personally, the incorporation of more land-based teaching and learning throughout the DOE system is actually more likely to assist in the education of the students, because again, like I mentioned, for all of the charter schools and the immersion school students that have been raised with this kind of approach of learning, they really do think differently and see the world differently. And I think if we were able to even introduce that kind of engagement with the outdoors, or even just understanding for the broader community of students, it would make a big difference.
And is the focus primarily on Hawaiian art itself, or are there foreign elements? Like, do they teach European art as well, or is it about 50-50?
I think it's a combination. Yeah, definitely a combination. Of course, the Hawaiian arts definitely come in quite easily because of the particular programs that are offered. If you're going out to a fish pond, you want to learn how to make a fish trap or a fish hook or something like that. But I think definitely the incorporation of drawing and painting is incorporated into their work, into their curriculum as well.
And do you have foreign artists come and visit here and spend time to learn about Hawaiian art? Are there programs like that people can look up?
I don't think there are any formal programs like that. There have been a lot, because of the networks that I've created over the years. I've already built relationships with other institutions and community groups, and they have come to Hawaii, and we've created our own cultural experiences and engagements like that.
Brilliant, Marques. And is there a website people can go on to learn more about your artwork or anything like that?
I have a website, marquesmarzan.com, and it has a little bit of my own background history, as well as some pictures and information on how to contact me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being my guest this morning, Marques.
Thank you so much, Pauline. Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And I'll see you next week for We Like the 1% at Thursdays at 11 a.m. Thank you. Bye.